Good evening, students. It is so good to have you in this supplemental review session for the exam. As noted in the syllabus, there will be 3 exams this semester and a final exam. The lowest exam score will be dropped before calculating the total exam score for a total of 600 points. Any time constraint or conflict that is university approved can serve as a basis for rescheduling an exam. Any missed exam is an absence, if not excused, will result in an automatic 0 for the exam. However, this score can serve as the dropped score. So this is what I'm referring to when I say you can drop your lowest grade. The exam will be released on Friday, September 16th, 2022, instead of Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. You have 24 hours to take it. The deadline is final. No exceptions will be made except for reasons approved by the university. The link to respond to the test assignment will close after 24 hours, and the Moodle link will close after 24 hours to upload the hard copy. So keep that in mind. Hopefully you're able to get all of the tasks done in order to prepare for this exam. Wishing you all the best. So let's begin the review. We will review for exam 1. Let me change the view. Full screen. There we go. So this is this is a version of the review. We will review for exam 1 on Wednesday. Homework 3 will be due on Sunday. So these are some quick facts we want to just go through. So as I said earlier, homework 3, which will be given on Saturday, September 10th, will be given Saturday, September 10th, and will be due on Sunday. But let's just review some quick facts. 1. Solids have a definite shape and are not appreciably compressible. So you want to know these facts. These are going to be important for you to know. It's important for you to review the videos on YouTube, as well as the notes from the class, and the PowerPoint, and the handouts, the packets. Especially this review video. Sodium, Na, is the chemical symbol for elemental sodium. 3. If matter is uniform throughout, it cannot be separated into other substances by physical processes, but can be decomposed into other substances by chemical processes. It is called a compound. 4. Symbol for the element potassium is K. Also remember, there will be a quiz given on Monday and on Wednesday. 5. The symbol for the element magnesium is Mg. 6. The initial or tentative explanation for some scientific phenomenon or occurrence is called an hypothesis. 7. A concise verbal statement or mathematical equation that summarizes a broad variety of observations and experiences is called a law. 8. A separation process that depends on differing abilities of substances to form gases is called distillation. Let's proceed. The SI unit for mass is kilogram. 10, my apologies if this is not that clear. 10 or 1 degree of temperature. The 1 degree of temperature that's smallest on the Fahrenheit temperature scale. Actually should read a 1 degree of temperature is smallest on the Fahrenheit temperature scale. 11. A common English set of units for expressing velocity is miles per hour. The SI unit for velocity is meter per second. Momentum is defined as the product of mass and velocity. The SI unit for momentum is kilogram meter per second. Also, some review tips. Review homeworks 1 and 2. Review the quizzes I will give you, and review the lecture videos and problem-solving sessions. And you should be fine and set for the exam. Remember, the exam is 50 questions, 55 questions, 50 multiple choice, and 5 short answer. Number 14, the SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. Number 15, the temperature of 25 degrees Celsius is 298 in kelvins. 16, the freezing point of water at 1 atm pressure is 0 degrees. 17, the temperature of 400 K is the same as 261 degrees Fahrenheit. 18. The temperature of 290 K is the same as 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, the number 1.00430 has 6 significant figures. Additionally, in the following list, only light is an example of light is not. In the following list, only light is not an example of matter. 54. The law of constant composition applies to compounds, and it says that the composition of a compound is always the same. Moving forward, the quantum mechanical model of the atom is important because it explains how electrons exist in atoms and how those electrons determine the chemical and physical properties of elements. Light is a transverse wave and is a form of EM radiation, electromagnetic radiation. Light travels at 3.00 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. 7.3. The wavelength of the wave is the distance in space between adjacent crests and is measured in units of distance. E equals hc over lambda, where E equals h nu, and nu is c over lambda. 7.5a. The frequency of the light is related to the color. Nu, or V, however you want to say it, is nu, is directly proportional to the energy of the disturbance, and which is related to the color of the light. For one of your homework assignments, there was a question that said to explain each wavelength. You want to know the answers to that very well. For gamma rays, the frequency, the wavelength, and also you want to know it for X-rays, ultraviolet rays, visible light, infrared rays, microwaves, and radio waves. 7.3. The wavelength of the wave is the distance in space between adjacent crests and is measured in units of distance, as I said earlier. The amplitude of the wave is the vertical height of a crest. The more closely spaced the waves, the shorter the wavelength, the more energy there is. The amplitude of the electric and magnetic fields in light determine the intensity or brightness of the light. The higher the amplitude is, the more energy the wave has. So I just want to give you a quick guide. There'll be 5 types of short answer questions, short answer calculations that I will release to you or give you on the exam. One type of short answer question, so you'll have 50 multiple choice, and they'll primarily be facts and a few calculations. The calculation questions for the short answer will be in 5 categories. One problem will be on EM radiation, and it'll be a dimensional analysis problem. The other problem will be on the wave nature of matter using de Broglie's equation. The other question will be on atomic spectroscopy. The other question will be on quantum numbers, and then you will have to know how to draw a Young's double slit diagram. So, for example, if you were given a problem where you were given the distance to the sun as 1.496 times 10 to the 8 kilometers, and you're required to find the time for light to travel from the sun to the earth, you'll think through and you'll come up with a conceptual plan. The conceptual plan would be you convert the distance in kilometers, distance in meters to time, and then the solution would be the distance converted to meters, then multiplied by the reciprocal of the speed of light to give you the time. That'll be 499 seconds. So the wave nature of matter sample problem would involve, say you were given a mass of 9.109 times 10 to 31 kilograms. Lambda is 0.2 nanometers. Find the frequency. Conceptual plan would be you take the mass and the wavelength, convert to frequency using u is equal to Planck's constant h over mass times wavelength. Solution is going to be 6.626 times 10 to the minus 34 kilograms meters squared per second squared over 9.109 times 10 to the minus 31 kilograms times 0.2 nanometers times 1 meter over 1 times 10 to the 9 nanometers. That is going to give you 3.6 times 10 to the 6 meters per second. The units are correct. The magnitude is large, as would be expected from the particle being calculated here, the particle speed being calculated here, and the particle is the electron. Okay, my apologies for if some of these pictures are blurry. So note, on the exam you will be given a spectrum. So this is an example of the atomic spectroscopy problem. For the problem, you'll be required to solve the energy, and you'll be required to know, find the lambda, the wavelength, and you'll also be required to determine which region of the spectrum it is in. So say, for example, you were given a problem that said you started in the second quantized state or second orbital, and the reaction relaxed to the first orbital. And how you would calculate that, you would use Rydberg's equation, in which you input the final and initial quantized states, then you get the energy values, and then you use the energy values using E equals AT over lambda. You transpose it so that lambda is the subject, and then you get the wavelength, and you find that that's typically in the UV or ultraviolet range. So for quantum numbers, you want to know your principal quantum number N, you want to know your angular quantum number L, you want to know the magnetic quantum number M sub L, and you want to know the spin quantum number M sub S. You want to know the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, you want to know Pauli's exclusion principle, you want to know wave particle duality ideas, and you want to know the photoelectric effect. Note, writing electron configurations will be assessed in exam 2, not exam 1. Also, you want to know how to draw Young's double slit experiment. That's kind of the review. We'll discuss more review. We'll do more review on Wednesday. On Monday will be regular lecture. Note, you'll have 2 quizzes. You'll have a quiz on Monday and a quiz on Wednesday. All of this is just preparation for the exam, so that you are well versed in the calculations and you have a good understanding as to how to proceed with the exam. The quiz will be released on Monday morning, and quiz 2 will be released Monday morning, quiz 3 will be released Wednesday morning. I hope you're doing well, and hope you do well on the exam. Thank you, Mr. Bourne, for joining me today. Welcome to the New Chemist. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Odyssey, and a variety of other platforms. Here on The New Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community research, and Nobel Prize laureate lectures in chemistry, analyzing their speeches. We're happy you're tuning in. My guest today is a former teacher of mine from the great Bishop Michael Eldon High School, Mr. Bourne. Thank you for joining me today. It is so good to hear from you. Just briefly, I'll inform my audience about you. So Mr. Bourne is a legend and a great teacher in his own right. He grew up in Guyana, went to an excellent university, passed several examinations. Also, he was an avid cricketer. He pursued his degrees, got distinction. He's been accomplished in his own right, a Google Educator Certified Level 1. He's married, has children, and he's also an ordained minister of the Gospel of Jesus Christ. And he currently serves and worships at Word of Life Ministries International. Once again, it is good to have Mr. Bourne on the podcast today. Awesome. So exciting.
Awesome. Good to be here, David. Good to be here.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bourne, what have been your long-standing interests in the fields of science?
I tell you what, I really like organic chemistry. That's one of my areas that I've been really interested in. And when I teach, that's always been one of my more passionate areas. I'm also very passionate about food and analytical chemistry and STEM education. So those are just a few of the areas that I'm really interested in, and really trying as much as I can to make an impact in those areas, even at high school level.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So I have a quick question on that same trend. What practical thing have you done recent, even in the pandemic, that allowed you to teach those concepts effectively, like organic chemistry concepts or basic analytical chemistry concepts? What have you done that's worked so well?
Well, I tell you what, it's as you talked about the pandemic. The pandemic is really that was one of the things that really threw a curveball in education, and we had to look for resources. And some of the ones that we would have used are some of the simulations that help students to really understand. I think PhET is one of the ones that I
Mm-hmm.
used quite extensively. I also, try to get a lot of digital content. CK12 is a program that I fell in love with, and my students were really, really interested to, be absorbed in that kind of material because what it did, it not only gave them, the simple read this or watch this video, but they also had animations and they had simulations and those kinds of things that really drove some of these concepts home a whole lot better than we could have done, you know, teaching it in a more conventional way.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, simulation is good. Even in graduate school, we used a few simulations like Webino, in which we could look at ligand docking and also
Mhm.
Spartan for certain classes. So there are a lot of
Yes,
stations that are available when it comes to
yes,
teaching chemistry content. Even Chemistry LibreText, that's a
yes,
good resource as well. So,
definitely.
how do you maintain view of the bigger picture in your career and in your life in general? How do you keep perspective as a teacher
Ah,
and as a person?
okay. One of the things that I try to do I strive to constantly improve myself.
Okay.
You have to, you cannot become, in education, you cannot allow yourself to become stagnant because before you know it, you'll become that 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So constantly I've been trying to improve myself in terms of, exposing myself to the whatever it is that might be trending or whatever it is that might be, the breaking things in education or whatever. Um, the other thing that I don't compromise my beliefs
Okay.
or my ethics,
Yeah.
irrespective of the situations that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that you have to be you. You have to be true to yourself.
I
And
agree.
that's one of the areas in which I really, I strive to continue to be who I am, and don't lose sight of the big picture. Yes, we're in education. Yes, we're making a difference. Yes, these are some of the things that are happening, but then you are still responsible to be the better version of yourself
Mm-hmm.
every day, and so that's what I try to do because with me being a better version of myself, when I come to my students, I could demand a better version of them.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
I
And
agree.
we could say to themselves, you know what? He's not shortchanging me because he is also trying to, the thing that he's asking me to do, he's trying to do it for himself, you
I
know?
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's
you
good.
know?
So, how have you been adaptive and creative in the field of science? What would you say has complemented you being effective so long as a teacher in education? What would you say has allowed you to be creative in how you instruct or adapt to different conditions? What would you say has been a complementary factor? How have you done
No,
it?
no problem. Um, you know, for quite a long time or quite a significant number of years, you've been accustomed to doing things a particular way or, getting things done and getting, pretty good results. But I think COVID-19, as I said before, was a curveball. It really threw a spoke in the wheel of educators and it really caused us to take a hard introspective look at the programs and the learning and the teaching and learning materials that we were producing and we were, making available to our students. And so I was forced, when COVID hit and everything shut down and we had to go virtually, I was forced, as so many other educators were, to really search for other ways of reaching the students
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't just easy it wasn't just okay to just talk and get their attention. You had to grasp their attention. And so Google certification was one of the things that I really turned to. And I think it really helped my creativity.
Okay.
Yes, I used almost the whole suite.
Okay,
So
that's
there were
good.
things, I used the Google Forms for multiple choice um, testing. We use the Google Slides for presented material. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we got collected information and put it in Google Sheets, all of those. So, it really gave me an opportunity to,
Expand your repertoire.
expand my repertoire. Yes. I also talked about CK12, very good digital content. And
Okay.
one of the things that they allowed me to do after I was certified with them is they allowed me to, what is the word I'm looking for? They allowed me to they have a textbook.
Uh-huh.
It's a digital textbook. But
To contribute to the digital textbook?
Yeah, they allowed me to make the relevant changes so that it might be more relevant to my students.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was awesome in itself, because the students, they love the content.
Okay.
So, but some of the things were not necessarily, tailored for
Contextually specific.
Yes. So I had to then use my creativity to, try and weave in those things.
I agree.
Add those things in, and it's not a finished product, but of course it's something that is an ongoing project for me.
Okay, that's good. So, Mr. Bourne, can you explain what is CK12 for those who may not know, or who may want to Google it or find out about it? What is CK12?
No problem. CK12 is it's an educational platform.
Uh-huh.
It seamlessly integrates with your learning platforms such as Google Classroom, or whatever LMS that you might have.
Uh-huh.
We of course use Google Classroom, and what it does, it presents the material in a way that I've never really seen it before.
Okay.
To an extent. Because what it does, it offers, for every topic that you do, there's a little bit of reading, there's some video to watch, there are always some questions that they would ask you to see how well you were grasping the material. There are simulations, there are animations.
Wow.
The part that I love is what is called adaptive learning. So when it's time for the students to practice, what they would do is they would start asking questions. There are 3 different difficulty levels. There's easy, the medium, and the hard. So what they do is, when they ask students a question, and if they see that they're struggling for, say, on the medium questions, then what they do is they from the reservoir of questions that they have, they kind of tailor it back for that particular student. So that student then is able to get more confidence, build up their confidence on maybe easier questions before they tackle the more difficult ones.
Wow.
And so, yes.
This is good. It sounds like a good resource, Mr. Bourne.
Yeah, man, a really good resource. And so for anybody who's looking for that, you can just go to ck12.org. You can sign up as a teacher, and they are always running. I think in the summer, especially, they run the certification programs, and of course they could then go, jump head first after that. That's
good. To make sure students get the resources they need.
That's right.
So how have you sort of found the right environment for you to thrive scientifically and intellectually? So what led you to choose University of Guyana? What led you to choose Bishop Michael Elden School to teach at? Why did you choose those institutions?
Well, I tell you what, when in Guyana, I wouldn't say it was much of a choice.
Okay.
In Guyana, the University of Guyana is the premier tertiary educational facility.
Okay.
And, so when I came out from high school, I worked pretty briefly in the banks, because I didn't have the money to go to school. I didn't have money to go, to pay for tertiary education.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after I got a scholarship that I was able to go there. So the scholarship, it kind of like pushed me in that area. But I always believe that God works things out in ways that you can't understand.
I agree.
So that when you think that you should have gone here or gone there, He knows exactly what it is that you needed. And I think that was a very good experience for me, because one, it allowed me to at that time I wasn't very mature as a person.
Okay.
It allowed me to mature really, really well. And it was there that I really developed the love for teaching, because as you know, when you're in college or university, at a certain level, especially if you're holding a certain GPA, the lecturers then come to you and ask you, would you be willing to do some tutoring?
Yeah.
Yes, and so that's how I really got started. Found that there were people who were constantly coming to me for, for help. Could you explain this to me? I don't understand this. That as I did it more and more, I realized, hey, this is something that I could definitely do. I had people who used to come to my home and, seek me out more or less for me to explain
concepts to them.
Concepts that they did not get when the lecturer did it. And that in itself, give me this impetus that, hey, maybe I could, get involved in a career in education. Bishop Michael Eldon, I was working at the Sugar Corporation back home as a chemist, and it was a very good job. But of course, in terms of the finances, it didn't really allow me to do what I wanted to do. And so Bishop Michael Eldon, that opportunity came up through a friend of mine. She introduced me, and it was a home run since I've been, I've not taught at any other school since I've come to the Bahamas, so I've been here going on 17 years now.
Wow, this is good, Mr. One. I'm glad you taught me. I've benefited in a lot of ways. A lot of ways from you teaching me. And I would say the same thing, even in university, I tutored as well. When I first started tutoring at Taylor University, where I tutored general chemistry and organic chemistry. And of course, I was paid. But I loved tutoring so much that even in graduate school, I tutored for free. Wow. I tutored some students for free. Even with my busy schedule, I tutored some students for free. And
that's when you know that it's a part of you.
That
you don't necessarily look for the remuneration. But you recognize that this is something that somebody needs and you have. I always remember the scripture says, freely have you received. In a lot of cases you've received a lot, some cases we had to pay for it, of course. But I think of it like this. There are some people who have poured into me to make me who I am. And so it's just it's just that kind of reciprocal nature.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting back into it and pouring into somebody else's,
it's better to give than to receive.
Definitely, man.
Yep. Definitely. So what have been your how do you maintain a balanced life given all your responsibilities and accomplishments? So how do you maintain balance, Mr. Bond? You're busy, you're teaching a lot of students. You also have a personal life.
I tell you.
Balance.
I tell you, well, the thing about it is that the students sometimes how they behave is sometimes they think that all that you do is teach. They think that when they go home in the evening, you take a bath right in school, and you sleep there in the night, and you're ready to go again early.
Man, that's funny. Eat breakfast at the school. You live at the school.
Have breakfast and everything, but I do have a life outside of school, and I work really hard at trying to maintain that balance, because I believe that balance is the key for you. Getting ahead in any area, you must be balanced.
I agree.
You must learn to walk that fine line of balance. So for me, I'm involved in church. I have responsibilities of church, and so that is one of the one area that sometimes I feel like I'm overwhelmed with work at school. There's an outlet there.
I agree.
I also love fishing.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a chance to do a lot of that lately.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have rods and stuff, and so whenever it's getting tough and it's getting too much for me, I find myself somewhere on a beach, or in a canal, and I'm fishing, and for me it's therapeutic.
I agree.
Yes, I'm able to relax my mind, get fresh perspective, be able to be rejuvenated. So those are some of the things that I do. Also, when at high school I was an avid sportsman.
Okay.
But of course I can't play those sports now.
Okay, that's fair.
A lot of them. I watch a lot of them. I love watching basketball, cricket. Soccer. When the Soccer World Cup was just the other day, so I watched that. I watched a lot of those games. I even watch golf. My wife doesn't understand it, but
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's good. So you have outlets.
Yes, they are. You must have outlets.
I agree. I
You
agree.
must.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
me, as me also watching tennis as well as playing some tennis,
Yes,
working
I know
out.
that you played, right?
Yeah, I
You,
played tennis
yeah,
a lot in high school.
yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely having balance. Like one of my former
Mhm.
guests, one of my colleagues from Georgia Tech,
Mhm.
Mr. Sharif Ali, he told me that he approaches this from the perspective of balance in different compartments. If you view life in compartments, whether it be social, faith,
Mhm.
work, having balance throughout those compartments, so that
Yes,
if you
absolutely.
skew to one area, you can kind of
Mhm.
adjust and because it's a constant adjusting, it's a constant
Yes,
adapting.
yes. It's a
It's not
push
just
and pull here. Yes,
yeah,
always.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
yeah. So, what would you say has complemented your success as a teacher? Would you say it's the mentors you've had, the study that you do, the prep that you do, your lesson plans, how you approach teaching the student, your teaching philosophy? What would you say
Mhm.
has complemented to you being successful as a teacher?
All right. For me, one of the most important things that you could do is create a rapport with your students.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so creating rapport. So for me, I want to create an environment that is oftentimes relaxed, but it's respectful, where
Okay.
students, this teaching learning environment is something that is a dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
joke and we laugh. I always tell a student came back to me the other day after many years of a couple of years of graduating and said, Mr. Bone, how come you're still here? I said, I've always found a way to laugh. I've
Wow.
always found a way to laugh because it's sometimes work can be tough.
Yeah, I agree.
Sometimes everything that you have to do can wear down on you. But for me, I always look for an opportunity that I can find something to laugh at, something to
Yeah,
make a little joke about, you know.
yeah.
And so that's one of the things I wanna the students to understand that the environment that we create in class must be one where they're not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not afraid to express themselves.
Yeah.
You go into some classes and they don't want this, it's like a censorship. So the teacher doesn't want the student to say anything. I'd be the first to tell my students I don't know everything,
Yeah.
especially in this digital age. I don't know
Same
everything.
here. Same here.
Understand? And
Yeah.
sometimes somebody could bring something to the table that I've never even considered, never even looked at,
Yeah.
never even had the ability or the opportunity to look at. And
Mm-hmm.
so I embrace those things. I
Yeah.
want them to think critically.
Yeah.
So those are the things. I think the other thing is I listen. I,
Okay.
I show empathy. I
Okay.
think those are the things that help me to become successful as a teacher because people who I don't even teach
Mm.
find their way into my classroom.
Okay.
You understand? They
Yeah.
find a way, and so that those are the kind. I think sometimes we look for the
Grandiose.
technical and the traditional, but I think teaching there's a human aspect that you
I agree.
can never overlook.
I agree.
You understand? When the students are able, I always remember somebody telling me, he says, if the students trust you and like you, they're able to learn from you a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
understand? And
I
so
agree.
that's one of that's always been my watchword, create that environment where students feel safe. Students feel like they could come and they could say, Mr. Bourne, this is what is happening. This is what is going on at home. This is why I can't give you your homework. This is, of course, they're the ones who will try to use that to get around you. But there are
Mm-hmm.
often genuine cases with children who are struggling with some difficult situations, and
I
you
agree.
have to be able to understand, somewhat what they're dealing with, and be
Mm-hmm.
able to help them through those, navigate those areas in their lives, and
Yeah.
that's where teaching becomes more than just the curriculum. It becomes teaching, them for life and giving them life skills that they could use
I
to
agree.
navigate. So I think that those are the things that I mentioned. Those are the things that I found most impactful for me
Mm-hmm.
as a teacher.
Okay.
Yes, I create. Yes, I teach. Yes, people come and they're like, yeah, Mr. Bourne is a good teacher, whatever. But for me, all of those things, those compliments stem from the fact of the kind of person that I am and how I'm able to help them get over these hurdles
I
and help
agree.
them to, blossom
I agree.
students.
Yeah, that's good, Mr. Bourne. So I have a quick question. Um, how do you go about teaching students of different abilities? Because you teach a classroom with students who have differing abilities.
Yes.
How do you go about it? Is it like you tailor your instruction to them, or do you tailor
Mm.
how you assess them, or is it a complement of all of those things?
Man, sometimes you as a teacher, you have to come up with the whole gamut.
Okay, yeah,
Meaning that there are times when you are able to pull them aside. The other members of the class can move forward, or they are doing something, or you when you develop your lessons, you have some component. This person might be not so good at chemistry, but they're good at acting, or they're good at whatever. And so you always try to see if there's somewhere you could bring in that kind of, you know, spark to your lesson, that they get an
okay,
opportunity to act, pulling students out, and sometimes just getting to the bottom of who they're struggling.
yeah, I agree.
So,
Really go through.
yes, and sometimes you'd realize that you pull them out, and sometimes the thing that they were struggling to have to understand in a classroom setting, they're able to understand it in 10, 15 minutes. Because what? They're now it's only you and them.
Mm-hmm.
Not afraid of sounding, oh, hey, this that I said might sound stupid, or this that I say might embarrass me. So they're able to kind of open up themselves.
Yeah.
And, from there, you're able to deal with the situation a whole lot more. But of course, no, when you look at data, teaching styles and all of that, you recognize that you cannot just bring one thing
Mm-hmm.
all the time. You got to give students an opportunity to express themselves in various ways. And so,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, sometimes it's you find that somebody's failing your test, but you give them a brochure to create, and they are excellent at that.
Yeah.
Or the digital skills are off the chains. And so you try to use those things now to help to motivate them,
Yeah.
and help them to see that, hey, I could do it. I might just do it in a different form, but
Uh-huh.
I could definitely do it.
Yeah, so as you teach, you reach the person where they are with their gifting, with their
Exactly.
skill, and make sure that the
Yes.
concept is learned. That's good,
Yes.
Mr. Vaughn. That's very good. So how have you maintained vision and teamwork in your classroom, in your environment? How do you maintain vision and teamwork? Your
Yeah,
overall
man.
goal.
Well, one of the things that is of prime importance is the input of your students and my colleagues.
Okay.
So I'm always open to what somebody has to say. Sometimes, we could be these egotistical individuals that
Mhm.
think that I could do this all by myself. I've been doing it. I'm an only child from my mother. And so for a lot of my life I lived alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, I have to shake myself out of that, hey, I'm not an island
I
unto
agree.
myself. I have
Yeah.
to, I embrace, what somebody else is saying. And so I'm happy for, teaching partners.
Mm-hmm.
We share resources, we share ideas, we share strategies, the ones
Uh-huh.
that work and the ones that don't work.
I agree.
We bounce ideas off of each other. And it's the other thing that I do is I do my own. I do self-evaluations.
Okay.
How
Yeah.
how am I? Did I really do the best that I could in this area? Did I really teach this like I could? Or is this the best that I could have done?
Uh-huh.
Collaborations. Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to pull people in. And with me saying that, I haven't forgotten you, sir. So I know that we are, we're at the busy point of school, but I will definitely,
Reach out to me.
take you up on your offer to come in and to share with my students, because
Definitely.
what you have is you have a wealth of knowledge to offer.
Thank you.
And I want the students to be exposed to, some of the thoughts and the things that go on in your mind, and how you present things and set things up. So
Yeah, man, you're very
yes.
kind. Thank you, Mr. Boy. Thank you. Yeah,
You're
so
welcome, man.
I have two questions, two scenarios before we start to wrap up. Two scenarios.
Yes.
How do you deal with the lack of resources? Because we're on Grand Bahama Island. How do you deal on one of the best schools in the island? So how do you deal with the lack of resources when you encounter that? Even in
Man.
teaching? What do you do? How do you approach it?
that is one of the most difficult things that I have had to deal with. You know, just things that are sometimes that you think that every science lab should have and it doesn't have it. You know, it always pains me whenever, you know, students come and ask me, you know, you explore a concept and they said, hey, could we look at that or could we do that? And you said, you know what? Unfortunately, we don't have that. That's one of the most difficult things for me to say to my students. And so sometimes what we have to do is we have to get creative. I came from Guyana. And in Guyana, we are resourceful people. And so sometimes we have to come up with different, it might not be the same experiment, but it is a similar experiment that the concept is still there. They're still able to, you know, deal with that. Or it might be something that we don't have the particular chemical, but we could use something, a household chemical, something that you could use, you know. So those are some of the things that, you know, you really have to, you know, and you have to stay on top of your game to know what is available and what is not, what you could bring to the classroom. Sometimes, unfortunately, we've had to put our hands in our own pockets and get things. Sometimes we've had to approach parents, you know, to help us out with some of the materials. But those are some of the things that, you know, I remember at one time, PharmaChem, one of the other local organizations, they were just compiling a list of things that they wanted to, you know, get to into our labs. Unfortunately, I think that we had Dorian and COVID and all of that, and that kind of petered out. But you know, from the you know,
onset.
From getting people from the outside, the business community, to help.
Public-private partnership.
Yes, you could also. So those are some of the things that I do, you know, get the parents involved where necessary, because once a parent knows that this is something that's going to enhance the education of their child and they could afford it, they will do it. They will get on board.
Yeah.
You know, if it's something that I could make or I could facilitate, I do it. You know,
I agree.
So those are some of the areas that we get around that, and I can't leave this one out. UB has been a tremendous help.
Yeah.
Because they've offered, after talking to
relative faculty,
relative faculty members and so on, those people that use my room, they've always given me the go ahead. You know, use whatever you need. You know, and so we've been able to utilize some of the things that they've had to help enhance what we want to present to our students. And so that is something that is, you know, definitely has been a plus for us there. But we still are dealing with chronic shortage